This is Jarrod Horak, and in this handicapping video, I'm going to preview the 2023 Pennsylvania Derby. We're about a week out from that race, so they haven't drawn the field yet. I'm going to go through and I'm going to do a preview of the possible horses, up to 10 possibles as of this time for the Pennsylvania Derby. And that Pennsylvania Derby will be run on September 23rd, 2023. Now, if you're interested in my full card analysis, my full cards will resume on September 29th, and they will go through November 5th, and that will be those full cards, the Santa Anita Park Autumn Meet, and you can purchase individual full cards, weekly and weekend packages, the entire meet, or the two-day Breeders' Cup on November 3rd and 4th as well. So if you're interested in any of those products, you can head on over to the runawayrhorse.com on my sales page for more details, and then also you can purchase my full cards each day at todaysracingdigest.com. And speaking of the digest, I'm going to do a handicapping article for Today's Racing Digest for this Pennsylvania Derby. I'm going to go through the field. I'm going to go through the pace projection. I'm going to look at the final time ratings. I'm going to give out my final order of finish, first to last, and wagering strategies. So check out that article, Pennsylvania Derby Week, at todaysracingdigest.com. And now we'll just go through the field real quick and see if anything jumps out. And I will give an early top choice for the Pennsylvania Derby in this video as well. Now, right now, the possible field as of September 17th, 2023, Daydreaming Boy, he's a possible, and he was third in the Smarty Jones Stakes last time out. It just seems like a field of this caliber is going to be a better field than he faced in the Smarty Jones, that he's probably going to be a bit up against it. Now, Dreamlike is listed as a possible for trainer Todd Pletcher. He was third in the Wood Memorial earlier this year. He was still a maiden then, and then he looked good breaking his maiden after that. And then he, in an allowance race last time, he disappointed. So Dreamlike is one that has a decent pedigree and good connections, but if he did show up here, he would have to pick up his game. Now, Gilmore is the next possible. This horse will be one that has mostly been running in sprint races, although earlier this year, he was second in the El Camino Real Derby on all-weather ground at 1 1/8 at Golden Gate Fields. And then they cut him back in distance after that. He was second in the Bayshore Stakes at 7 furlongs, a one-turn mile. The Pat Day Mile, he was third. The Woody Stevens Stakes, he was third. And he won a 1-mile allowance race at Saratoga on August 30th. So Gilmore, he has had some success going longer, some success going shorter, and he's done well in multiple stakes races. If you're playing exotics, a horse like this that typically shows up and runs a decent race could be one from off the pace that could get involved and at least finish somewhere in the trifecta. Miracolo is next, and he started to get better. He had run in some stakes races earlier in his career, and he just wasn't a threat, including the Belmont Stakes. But then after that, he started to come around. He was second in the Curlin Stakes behind Scotland. That was a decent effort that day. And then last time, the Grade 3 Smarty Jones Stakes at Parks, the local prep race for this, he was able to get the job done and win that race. So Il Miracolo is one that continues to get better, but he's going to have to continue to get a little bit better if he's going to knock out the two favorites in this race. Magic Tap is next, and he's another one that seems like he's getting better. He broke his maiden. That was at Churchill Downs on June 2nd at 1 1/16. And then in a 1 1/8 allowance race on June 30th at Ellis Park, he finished second. And then last time, a 1 1/8 allowance race at Saratoga on August 13th, he won that race. So Magic Tap can handle this 1 1/8 distance, and he continues to get better. But now he's going to step up and face Stakes Company, and we'll see where he fits as we get later in the year now. And you have some horses with some proven stakes form, and then you have horses like Magic Tap that are going to try to step up and prove that they belong in the stakes ranks. One in Vermillion is next, and he's one that's had run a lot of races, and he has had some success in stakes races. He had 3 minor stakes victories and 3 stakes placings earlier in his career. And then this year, he was first in the Las Barreras Stakes on the West Coast, and then first in the H. Allen Jerkins Memorial Grade 1, 7 furlongs last time. Now, unfortunately, we had a breakdown in that race. New York Thunder was going to win that one, but then he broke down, and then one in Vermillion was able to win. So he wouldn't have won that race if that didn't happen. But he's one that he's run well in many stakes races, and he likes to get involved. He can get involved in the pace, and he can come from a bit off the pace as well. So he's got some versatility. He's got some decent form, I still think he's a cut below some of the horses in this race. Now, Raise Cain is listed as a possibility in this race. He also is entered in the Oklahoma Derby, so we'll see which direction they go. They did not have a rider listed in the Oklahoma Derby, and he's one that in the Gotham Stakes, that Grade 3 race in the mud at Aqueduct earlier this year, that was a one-turn mile. He had an outer post. The pace fell apart. He took advantage, and he stormed home from off the pace to win by more than 7 lengths. But since that race, he's 0 for 5 in stakes races. He was second in the Indiana Derby, just missing by a nose. So that was his best effort since the Gotham. But overall, the Gotham was his big race, and everything went his way that day. And I don't know that he's going to get a pace meltdown in this kind of race. We'll see. Like we said, we'll see where he goes. He's already entered in the Oklahoma Derby, and we'll see if they enter him here as well. Reincarnate for trainer Bob Baffert, going to ship in from the West Coast. And he's one I've always liked. He won the Sham Stakes. That was a Grade 3 earlier this year. And I liked how he really battled on the pace, and he showed a lot of determination. Then he was a troubled third in the Grade 2 Rebel. Now, at that particular time, I think I had him as high as second on my Kentucky Derby list over the winter. But then after the Arkansas Derby, he disappointed. He was third up on the pace, sitting a good trip there. So I really liked him when I saw him in the Sham and then the Grade 2 Rebel, where he overcame a lot of trouble in a wet track, and he was able to just run on nicely that day. But the race flow was in his favor in the Rebel. And in the Arkansas Derby, he set a good tactical trip. He just couldn't kick it in the stretch, and he finished third. He was a pace casualty in the Kentucky Derby. Anybody near the pace there didn't run well, except for 2 fills. And then we've seen multiple horses that were involved in that tough pace come back and run some decent races as the year went on. And Reincarnate's one that did. He won the Los Al Derby. That was at Los Alamitos Racecourse in his last start, and he controlled the pace there in that race at 1 1/8 miles. So he's one that can get out there and be part of the pace. I don't think he's a need-to-lead type. He's versatile, and he was originally, after he won the Los Al Derby and he was really training well, they were talking about the Travers, but then they changed their mind and they said, no, we're going to point to the Pennsylvania Derby. So he's been pointing to this race for quite some time for trainer Bob Baffert, and Reincarnate looks like a solid contender in here. Saudi Crown will probably be the favorite in the Pennsylvania Derby. He's run 4 times and he has 2 wins in 2 seconds. His 2 wins were at 6 furlongs and 6.5 furlongs, his first 2 career starts. And then his first stakes race, a 1-turn mile in the Grade 3 Dwyer Stakes at Belmont. And he was in a real pace battle there, in a real battle all the way, and he was just missed. It was a good effort. He missed by a nose, and then it was well clear, the top 2 finishers, well clear of the rest that day. A good effort in his stakes debut there, a 1-turn mile after back-to-back wins in sprints. And then last time in the Jim Dandy, that Grade 2 race, he ended up controlling the pace, short field, and it was a roughly run stretch that day where you saw Forte bully his way through and then just win by a nose. But Saudi Crown in the stretch, I think he was getting tired. He started to drift out, and he drifted pretty far out in the stretch that day. But that was only his 4th lifetime start. So he's lightly raced. He's run well in all of his starts, and he could easily be 4 for 4. He's losing, just coming on the wrong end of the win photo in his last couple for trainer Brad Cox. So Saudi Crown looks like a solid early pressing threat in the Pennsylvania Derby. And then West Coast Cowboy is listed as a possibility, but he, like Raise Cain, is entered in the Oklahoma Derby on September 24th. He was 3rd in the Grade 3 Holy Bull earlier this year and 2nd in the Grade 3 West Virginia Derby. So he's one that has some tactical speed. He's probably got a better shot if they end up going in the Oklahoma Derby. This looks like a tough spot if they go here. So overall, looking at this field, I think if you're playing exotics, a horse like Gilmore can certainly maybe be used underneath. Il Miracolo, Magic Tap, they're 2 horses that are improving, but Il Miracolo is improving with some good stakes form, whereas Magic Tap hasn't run in the stakes ranks yet. Il Miracolo coming off of a 2nd place finish in the Curlin and then followed that up with a win in the Grade 3 Smarty Jones. So those horses, I think, exotics purposes, you can definitely use. Saudi Crown's the one to beat. But I'm going to go with, right now, the way that it looks, I'm going to pick Reincarnate on top for trainer Bob Baffert. I just like his form. I've been a fan of this horse for quite some time. Like that gritty effort in the Sham. He overcame some things in that Rebel Stakes, and then in the Arkansas Derby. It was a little bit disappointing, but he did finish third there. Forget the Kentucky Derby. Anybody on the pace there was done for, so forget that one. And I like how he bounced back in the Los Al Derby, and I like ever since that race how he's been training. He was training well going into that race. He's training even better now, and Reincarnate should be all over the pace, and I think that he has a good shot to defeat Saudi Crown in the Pennsylvania Derby. So again, I'm going to write an article going through this race and give out my top choice and wagering strategies for that one, first to last horses and wagering strategies for that Pennsylvania Derby. And you will find that article, Pennsylvania Derby Week, at todaysracingdigest.com. So keep checking that out after they draw post positions and I get a look at the field and I'm able to write that article and get that on there. I'll do it as quickly as I can. And until I see you next time, good luck at the races.